Back at 7:43, and this morning on Today investigates, could your favorite seafood be dangerous? Wait until you see where some of it comes from. NBC's Jeff Rawson is here with what he found out. Morning to you, Jeff.
Hi, Meredith. Not to break your heart. I know you love seafood, but most of it, and even though we eat a lot of it in this country, most of it doesn't even come from here. In fact, 80% of fish and 90% of the shrimp actually come from overseas. This morning, our Today investigation has found some of your seafood may have toxic chemicals causing serious health issues. Sautéed, fried, or fresh, we love seafood. Appetizing for sure, until you see where some of it comes from. This video, shot by a U.S. advocacy group, shows dirty sewage water used to raise seafood in Vietnam. The fish pumped with toxic antibiotics and banned drugs just to keep them alive, boosting production and driving down costs. Would you consider this a public health threat?
Well, absolutely. Food's safe.
Ron Sparks is the commissioner of Alabama's Department of Agriculture, one of the only states testing imported seafood for these dangerous drugs, like chloramphenicol, nitrofurans, and malachite green, chemicals so toxic to humans they're banned in all food.
In some cases, between 40 and 50% of our tests will come out positive.
That's a disturbing number.
It is to me. That's why we continue to test.
State tests in Oklahoma, Mississippi, and Georgia show similar results, all targeting seafood with the worst record of contamination. Shrimp, catfish, crab meat, and tilapia imported to the U.S. from China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia. In many cases, officials say, ending up in our country's restaurants and grocery stores.
Unfortunately, consumers can't tell if any of these compounds are in their seafood. You can't smell it, can't taste it, you can't cook it out.
So how dangerous are these chemicals? Scientists say over time, eating this tainted seafood could cause anemia, cancer, even birth defects. The FDA says the risks are long-term and not fully understood. While the FDA is responsible for keeping the nation's food supply safe, our Today investigation found it tests less than 2% of imported seafood.
They're not going to get caught. I mean, they're sending tons of seafood to this country. And if you only catch a small percentage of it, why would they stop?
Does the FDA need to do more?
I would certainly suggest that the FDA do more.
And it's an ongoing problem. While government tests show U.S. seafood is free of these contaminants, even back in 2007, this congressional subcommittee report found seafood imports remain especially problematic, and the FDA lacks sufficient resources and authority to ensure food safety. The FDA declined to speak with us on camera, but said it's doing the best it can, targeting its testing on companies and countries that are repeat offenders and rejecting their products until they're proven safe. Yet it keeps happening. In fact, according to FDA test results obtained by NBC News, this year alone, 8% of seafood it tested from China was tainted. And from Taiwan, 16% of seafood tested was tainted as well. Is that acceptable to you?
Any use of unauthorized antibiotics is unacceptable.
John Connolly runs a trade group representing the imported seafood industry.
The FDA says seafood from overseas is still coming in with the toxic chemicals. It's been a problem for years, and it's not stopping. So what are the importers doing to stop it?
To say any unauthorized use of antibiotics is inappropriate. The vast majority of seafood coming in does not exhibit any kind of problems.
You're claiming that no tainted seafood is making it from overseas onto our dinner tables.
I'm saying that any use of unauthorized antibiotics is inappropriate.
He says most importers follow the rules, and this problem is being overblown as a trade issue. He says this video of polluted fish ponds and raw sewage is misleading. Instead, he gave us his own video of picturesque fish farms in Vietnam.
But it keeps happening year after year after year. Why?
Unfortunately, there are bad actors in every industry.
But when you buy seafood, chances are you don't know where it comes from. While federal law requires grocery stores to disclose its country of origin.
Where's the tilapia from?
China. In restaurants where most of us eat our seafood, it's a different story. Most states don't require them to tell you where it's from at all.
That's awful. I'm totally in shock.
We label everything. Why wouldn't we label our seafood? Why wouldn't we label our fish?
Most people do try and eat more fish because it is healthier for you, and you want to know where it's from.
Would you support legislation where we would know no matter where we go where our seafood is coming from?
Studies do not indicate that Americans are deeply interested in the source of their fish or other proteins.
As a consumer, don't I have a right to know where my seafood is coming from, especially knowing what we know now?
I think that consumers should feel comfortable that FDA does a good job.
But some officials say until more seafood is tested, consumers are at risk.
It is a cat and mouse game. They, quite honestly, don't care about the health of United States citizens.
Some officials say this isn't just a health issue. American fishermen who play by the rules say they're losing their jobs because they can't compete with importers who are cutting the corners and selling their tainted seafood much cheaper here in the U.S. You know, Meredith, I don't mean to scare everybody. Most of the seafood coming in, even from overseas, is safe. The problem is, even in restaurants, you don't know unless you ask your server. And even then, they're under an obligation to tell you. The key is in grocery stores to read the labels and see what country it's coming from.
Yeah, buy American. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Jeff, thank you so
sure.
much.